Hello, I'm back. Here to tell you about all the books that I read last month. It was a good reading month. I don't have all the physical books because some of them were audio, but yeah, let's get into it. All right, first book. Funny story, Emily Henry. Shout out to my sister who bought this for me. So this follows a girl who has moved to kind of like Upper Peninsula-ish Michigan. She moved there for her fiance, and then her fiance breaks up with her, forcing her to move out and get a roommate. And love hijinks ensue as the roommate is the ex of the girl that main character's fiance broke up with her to be with. As someone who's been in like northern-ish Michigan a lot, I kind of recognized a lot of the places. And while it is not my favorite Emily Henry book, I did have a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a fun rom-com-esque book, Emily Henry also writes books, romance books for girls with dad issues. So do with that information what you will, I guess. And I say that lovingly. I listened to the audiobook of The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. Amanda Montell wrote the book Cultish, which I also read this month. It was a reread. I'll talk about that in a second. But The Age of Magical Overthinking is basically like a nonfiction book about all the ways in which we kind of subscribe to internet delusions and things that kind of like don't make sense. So whether that is astrology, no hate to the astrology girlies, or standing a pop star like Taylor Swift to the ends of the earth, or even being in a toxic relationship. Amanda Montell's work I love because it's just so well researched, but her writing is also very down to earth and fun. I love her writing. I'm writing a nonfiction book myself right now, so I was kind of reading stuff to just get me in that headspace. I went on kind of like a book tour crawl the other month, and this was one of my pickups. So this is Sex, Lies, and Sensibility by Nikki Payne. This is a retelling of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, and I am not the biggest Jane Austen fan, but I did love this book a lot, even though the parallels between this and like Sense and Sensibility I probably didn't pick up on that much because it's been a long time since I read Sense and Sensibility. This is about two sisters, Nora and Yanni Dash, and when their father dies, they find out that they are actually his mistress's kids and not his like legitimate children. They are tasked with going to the only thing he left them in his will, which is this kind of rundown beachside property hotel thing in Maine. And our main character, Nora, immediately meets a local named Ennis Bear, who is part of the tribe that lives there on the reservation. And this is just like a really fun rom-com, but also very smart in terms of how it's thinking about like indigenous land and, claims to it by non-indigenous peoples, and also love in the time of like the digital age, because our main character has a kind of spicy video out there that is on the internet against her will and has plagued her for many, many years. So, even if you're not a Jane Austen fan, I would highly recommend picking up this romance. It's super fun, very thoughtful, very moving, and somewhat spicy. I decided that I wanted to reread Amanda Montell's Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. And I listened to the audiobook of this one too. Cultish goes into Amanda Montell's roots as a linguist, and she looks at how the language of classic cults that we know, like Jonestown or the Manson family, kind of translate into other cult-ish situations. So things like MLMs or group fitness, different like internet communities. So she draws this really fascinating parallel between those communities and the language that binds communities together. It is like a fascinating study of language and how language can be used. And I just love this book, and I was very happy to reread it. I went to the book launch event in Cincinnati for Kathleen Hanna's memoir, Rebel Girl. Kathleen Hanna is probably best known as the front woman for Bikini Kill and La Tigra, and also the band The Julie Ruin. which is kind of her like solo project. And she is somewhat credited with starting or at least being the head of the Riot Girl movement. So I was really excited to get my hands on this, not only because when I was getting my PhD, I wrote a lot of scholarship about Riot Girl and zine making and kind of 90s era third wave feminism, but also because I'm currently writing a book about girls' bedroom culture that Kathleen Hanna really features quite prominently in. And I loved this memoir because Kathleen just has this beautiful way of approaching life and feminism that is so not one dimensional. She allows herself to be messy and to not have all the answers. And like, I just really think that we need more of that in a world that is so like didactic and about like calling out bad behavior. So, as much as this is a memoir of music and kind of her experiences in the punk and grunge scenes in the early 90s, and then in the, indie scene of the 2000s, it's also really a look at, how feminism can actually work in the world and why feminism isn't just like a one-dimensional script or set of ideals that you have to subscribe to, but something that you can live with over the course of your life that shifts and changes. So I really, really loved this. I love Kathleen. Bikini Kill is on tour right now, and I think I'm going to get tickets to their show in Detroit. I listened to the audiobook for the memoir Sociopath by Patrick Grange. And I spent a lot of this memoir wondering why someone would name their child Patrick. And then I realized that it was a pen name, or I came to find out that it was a pen name. So, yeah, anyway, this is a memoir by a woman who is a diagnosed sociopath. And it's kind of her journey from childhood, beginning to understand herself as different from other people, and then moving into adulthood where she is working in the music industry and she gets her doctorate because she's noticing that there aren't any treatment options for people who are diagnosed with sociopathy. The memoir really doesn't end up with her kind of like changing that, but it is a really interesting look inside the life and the mind of someone who is not neurotypical in a way that we don't often see. The last third of the book kind of fell a little flat for me, but it was fun. I listened to the audiobook and the author reads it, so I would recommend checking it out. And yeah, that's all I read this week, or not this week, this month, last month, April. I will see you next time. Bye.